Hey guys, it's Toniko Pantoja, and today I want to talk about the topic of being self-taught. So what does it mean to be self-taught? I think the short definition is this is someone that doesn't have any formal training, and they picked up the skills by actively learning it all by themselves and getting experience by just doing projects and assignments by themselves. Now, the thing about self-taught individuals is that it's not uncommon. And when you see someone that's self-taught and they're super good, they're amazing, that's often glorified. However, this causes debate on what is it to be truly self-taught. Because if I had guidance from someone, if I got constant feedback from other people, if I had some form of mentorship, someone pointing me in directions on what I should focus on or what I should learn, is that truly self-taught? Because I personally believe that a lot of us are both self-taught and had some form of training. Like for me, I taught myself how to draw at first. I was introduced into learning animation with Flash animation, finding tutorials on the Macromedia website, and then I got feedback and criticism, so I would look at guides, I would look at books, then I would get into schools, eventually into an animation school, and then after school I would just focus on trying to figure out my own work, but at the same time getting feedback, and then other times I'll just go back to being solo. So I've always saw myself as a mix of someone that is trained and someone that goes on a self-taught journey. So I personally believe that there's a lot of great value to being self-taught or going through the self-taught life because it teaches you how to trust your instincts. You discover things by yourself. This encourages you to be more creative in problem solving, how to work around limitations. And if you're the creative and artistic type, it's going to allow you to foster your own creative voice and style. Now, the thing that I want to tackle is that being self-taught, there are some things that you need to watch out for and that could possibly stunt your growth. So the first issue I want to talk about is habits arise when you're a self-taught artist. So I would define a habit as a repeated pattern of a behavior. And the thing about habits is that there's a connotation that once you have a certain habit, it's hard to get rid of. So in terms of drawing or animation, an example of a habit is, let's say, same face syndrome. Like you just draw the same type of face over and over again. Or you draw certain things and you have difficulty getting out of that. Another habit that could be an example is, let's say you're a person that does a lot of chicken scratches in your lines. You know, there's a saying in the art community that you get stuck in a comfort zone, something that's comfortable to you, and in order to grow and expand your skills, you kind of need to tackle subject matter that's unfamiliar to you. Sometimes you need someone to look at your work and actually point out that they are seeing a habit that's hindering or holding you back. One solution to break out of habits is to do something unorthodox, something that you're not used to, step out of your comfort zone. I know something that helped me a lot, especially when it came to drawing, is actually focusing more on things like blind contour drawing, where I'm not really precious about how my drawing looks and I'm just kind of trying to capture whatever I'm seeing without looking too much on whatever I'm drawing. I think another thing that helps with getting rid of habits is giving yourself certain constrictions or limitations. Have scratchy lines, try to really limit how many strokes you can do and implement bigger, longer strokes. I think a note that I got a lot when I was learning animation, and sometimes I get the same note to this day, is that my animation can be all over the place. There's like a lot of ideas, things are moving all the time when they don't need to. So a constriction for me would be like, I'm going to summarize this shot in 1 or 2 key poses. It doesn't need 16 key poses. Another issue that I wanted to bring up with self-taught artists is that they're more likely to cheat things rather than get it right. So this can mean a lot of things. So an example is like breaking the anatomy so the pose sort of works in that moment, but by itself there's just a lot of issues. Using quick and easy techniques to quickly get something across, even if it's not the most problem-solved thing. Now, I personally believe that I think it's really cool to find quick solutions to get something done. But when something actually needs to be figured out with technical and draftsmanship skills, then using quick hacks, and that's what they are, they're just hacks, it's not going to be applicable for certain problems. It got to a point where earlier in my learning experience, I was doing so much cheats to get something that's workable as a first impression, but if you look at it closer, there were just a lot of issues, and I didn't realize I was doing that a lot until my teachers pointed it out, my peers pointed it out. It just became such a habit. And these were picked up as I was trying to teach myself how to animate by watching other Newgrounds cartoons. And the thing with like quick tips and little cheats and hacks is that they're good to know and that they're tools, but I don't think it really helps you grow as a creative individual. So I think one thing that I had to do was really focus on the things that I felt like I was cheating on, and just spent time figuring it out, this thing, and instead of just relying on little quick tips and hacks or quick fixes, try to figure out the drawing or the animation in a more technical lens, and just spending way more time just trying to figure that out. And that stuff is going to make you be more of a critical thinker. I think being solely a self-taught artist can sometimes make it hard to adapt, and I'm going to use that term general here, like just adapt to a certain workflow, a style, or even a group setting. And from here, I'm going to use a bunch of different examples. So if I have certain drawing habits that's actually hindering my work, because I have those habits, it's going to be harder for me to break out of those habits in order for me to adapt to different styles or different workflows. You actually need someone to point out those things and to sort of give you direction on how to adapt to other things. Another example of this is there's a lot of amazing talented animators and artists that post their work on Twitter and everyone goes gaga for it. And so a PA from, let's say, a said production wants to hire them, and by the time they're brought in, they don't know how to work at a professional level. That's something that's more common in self-taught artists, because part of training teaches you skills on how to adjust notes, work on a professional matter where you're actually working with a group. So I can see how someone that's completely self-taught may have difficulty adapting to whether it's an art style, a professional group, environment. If you're someone that has difficulty adapting, like myself for example, I would recommend requesting frequent check-ins. Like for me, I would always request feedback here and there. Practice working with deadlines, for example. Like if you say you want to finish something at a certain day, try your best to hit that mark. Practice organization. That is something that I'm recently doing for my own personal projects for sure. Because the curse of being a self-taught artist is that you solely depend on yourself, and I don't think that's always a good thing. So if I were to restate what I talked about, self-taught artists are more likely to have habits arise, which makes it hard to break out of, more likely to use quick hacks and cheats to just get something done rather than to actually figure out the problems, and difficulty in adapting, whether that's adapting to a different style, adapting to a professional environment, or just adapting in general. I think all of these things are pointed out by other people that have a perspective when they look at your work or your approach. Now, I don't think being self-taught is a bad thing. I just don't think the idea of being entirely self-taught is, let's say, a productive thing. Because I think in order for a lot of us to grow, we need to connect with other humans, other artists that can give their perspective, and that actually influences our work. I truly do believe that some of us will go through mentorships, through training with other people, and there'll be a time where we're just trying to figure out ourselves by discovering things out by ourselves. I think mixing those two together can be a really good thing for a creative person. I think it's also good to practice awareness with whatever you're doing, so being super honest with whatever you're doing. So understanding the benefits of what you're doing, the struggles, the weaknesses, everything about it. Because if you actually know that stuff, you actually have intention with your work. Anyways, that's all. Bye.
Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.